Alrighty, folks. One of the things I've been looking forward to do for probably 3 months now is share this presentation with my community, right? The school community. I've been working on this presentation for no lie, 4 months. It really started when I got the opportunity to speak at Bigger Pockets, talking with at the time the CEO, Scott Trench. We had a brain dump around, kind of the old way to retire, kind of work 40 hours for 40 years to live on 40%. And both Scott and I believe that you could do it in 10 years. That was the impetus for my presentation at Bigger Pockets. And again, I owe Scott Trench, the former CEO, everything. Uh, I actually took his time slot, right? I was added to the agenda very last minute, and only because he gave me his spot because he thought this topic was so important. So it meant the world to me that A, he did that. B, that he sees the community as one rental at a time is very complimentary to Bigger Pockets, which I do as well. Very much in the line of, Coach Carson, the small and mighty, Dion, the lazy investor, right? One at a time. We're not talking get rich quick or any of that. But what I want to do here for this community is give you the actual presentation. I'm going to go through it a little bit slower. Normally, this presentation was timed to be 45 minutes. I'm allocating 90 minutes because I'm hoping this is interactive. I'm hoping there's comments and whatnot. And he doesn't know this, but I just had an idea. Mark, I'm going to tap you on the shoulder. If you could watch the comments and then just put up the hand signal or something when you want me to stop and answer a question, that would be very helpful. So Mark, shake your head. You're cool with that? Awesome, buddy. I appreciate you. So without further ado, let's just get into it. And again, this is for you. This is how to get wealthy. I believe everyone can get wealthy. I think it's math and time, and we are going to get into that together. So let me hope that the test run worked and that you can all see that. Mark, give me a thumbs up if you can see the opening slide, please. Awesome. So again, this is a presentation that I'm now giving in public for the fourth time. It started in Orlando, then went to Thatch's event in SoCal, then Bigger Pockets, and now the one that I care about the most, our community. So given that let's make sure it moved. There we go. So hopefully it's moving. So again, I went to areas that don't know me, right? I'm hoping my audience knows most of these facts, but we'll get them out there because I am recording this. I am going to put this on my YouTube channel. I believe that getting wealthy is possible, and my goal is to help people do that. So, a lot of people don't know who I am. I am a married man. Have one daughter. We started real estate investing in 2001. I was almost 30 after busting out of the stock market. Again, I was investing during the initial .com craze. I turned 7 grand into nearly 200,000 and then suddenly lost 80%. Now, a lot of people hear that and say, well, congratulations, you still had 40 grand, but that's not what I remember, right? What I remember is having $200,000, nearly 200,000 and losing 80%, right? That is a scar, a wound that I'll never forget. It led me to realize that I was not an investor. I was a gambler, right? I started off with the best intentions. I have a finance degree, right? I went to school and got a MBA so I could read balance sheets and income statements and earning statements. I frankly was an accountant for many years coming out of college, so I know how journal entries and all of these things works. But um, I learned in that cycle that, frankly, the less work I did, the more money I made, which really morphed into gambling. And what I didn't know at the time was the tide was rising and all ships rose, kind of like today, frankly. And again, when the market's going like that, the key is to be in. But as my experience shows, the market could turn against you very quickly. And, you could lose it all in the matter of, 10 days or 12 days or however long it was for me. It seemingly was very, very quick before I went to cash and started licking my wounds. Um, so again, that's how I found real estate, right? To me, for decades, Wall Street was a casino. I wasn't a cool kid. I didn't go to the right school. I didn't live on the East Coast. Wasn't for me. And real estate was something I could see, touch, I could learn, and find and create value. The first part of our journey is we start buying houses. I only wanted four. That was my big grand vision, right? I thought if I could get to four, I would have a better retirement than most. My plan in the beginning was at 30 when this started is to work to 65 and then have four free and clear rental homes. Why? I don't know. That's more than anybody I knew had, right? One of my weaknesses was I didn't have a network of real estate investors. I didn't have a school community. I didn't have an online. I didn't know anybody that had rentals. So having four felt like, felt like going to the moon, right? Because nobody in my world or environment had done that. We very quickly went from four. We actually got eight. We had eight houses in 2006, and I paid to go to an event called the California Crash. I will never forget Bruce Norris. If you've ever met Bruce Norris or you get a chance to go to one of the events, you should. He's very data driven. I remember this. He had like 100 charts, and again, I love numbers, I love charts, but I was lost. I mean, it was so over my head what he was talking about. But one thing hit me. He talked about this thing called the affordability index. And the affordability index basically says how many people in the city or the metro could afford to buy. And Bruce Norris was saying at the time that California was going to crash because we had never been this unaffordable. And I took that statement with a grain of salt because again, at the time, I didn't know who he was. But I was intrigued by this crash because, again, remember, just a few short years ago, I'd lost 80% in the stock market, and I was not about to lose another 80%. At this point, we're millionaires because of these homes; they went up in value, and I didn't want to lose that. So we leave that event again, an event we paid to be at, right? So again, never stop learning, never start getting in different rooms, because you just never know. You should always take at least one thing away from an event. And that was for me. So I went out and researched affordability, all right, the affordability index. More specifically, the affordability index for Fresno, California, which is where our eight homes were. And what I quickly realized is it had never been this unaffordable. I don't remember the exact numbers, but they were something in the teens, like 13, 14, 15, which means only 15% of the population can afford the average home, which had never ever been that low. And it typically walked around at 35 to 40. So it was very, very unaffordable. And then the next thing, this is important. And again, I often get called lucky, but I challenge that because again, I paid to go to the event. I took something away. I validated it, and then I took action. So something we did is we sold all of these eight houses, and we didn't sell them and take the cash because that would have been a big tax bill. We did what was called a 1031 exchange, and we basically went from eight houses to 80 units. The beauty of this transition is we got all of that equity, that fake equity. So, for example, if you ever wanted to look this up, and it's in the book, you could look up Norris Drive. It's 1818 Norris, Norris Drive East, 93703. Why did I give you that? That was the first house we bought, Norris Drive, right? It's the one that had the eviction. It's all of that story. But the key to this is we buy it for 107, we sell it for 263, and then, folks, it trades at 75. The next time it sells is at 75. So again, Bruce Norris was right. That's an 80% or 70% collapse in value. And we would have been wrecked if all our houses dropped 70%. And again, sometimes you've got to take bold action, and we did, right? And we got into multifamily right at the right time. So the great reset or the great financial crisis was a blessing to us because we took action ahead of time. Then during the crash, again, shout out to Bigger Pockets. I was interviewed by Bigger Pockets, specifically Josh Dorkin. You can still find it. I have a very fat, pudgy face in that video. It was 14 years ago. 14 years ago. So how old was I? 39? Is that right? Yeah, I think 39. Big fat face. I'm still embarrassed every time I see that thumbnail. But I would actually, if you're in my world, you should probably check that out because one of the things that I love about that video is I'm still talking about the same things 14 years later. And I think there's a sign that works, right? I'm not trying to be some guru and do some get rich quick thing. I'm really trying to help people understand how to get wealthy and have a buy box and all of those things. So check that out. But what that interview allowed me to do on Bigger Pockets with Josh Dorkin is he invited me to be a featured blogger, right? This is before video, a blogger. And I wrote an article once a week for their blog, right? I was one of 12 or 13 people. This is back with Jay Scott and Tom Tarrant and all those folks, pre Brandon Turner, right? This was done pre Brandon Turner joining as a uh, you know, whatever, a volunteer or intern or whatever it was. So again, I was writing for the blog, and then Brandon came in and added some rigor and all of that. So again, being very early with Bigger Pockets is a fond memory. It was kind of a capstone for me going back this year and talking at Bigger Pockets because I was at the very first one in Denver. So being at the last one, shout out to the Bigger Pockets team. You guys put on a great event. It was 3 days. It was very well done. So good for them. So, uh, what that allowed me to do by writing for Bigger Pockets, I actually had a website called wealthbuildingpro.com at the time as well, because again, video wasn't a thing. I was able to borrow millions of dollars, right? This is, the first time I borrowed private money, right? We were buying during this crash, and we realized that we were running out of money. So we just documented what we did, and people basically threw money at us. We were paying 10 to 12% interest only. They were covering the entire purchase price. We would do the repair, and then we would, today this is called a burr, right? We'd go back and get our capital back once it's leased, rented, and repaired and rented. Today it's called a burr. Shout out Brandon for being able to title things. That's a gift he has, is kind of making it marketable. But that's what we were doing way back in the day. And fast forward that curve. Olivia retired in 2016. I retired in 2018 at 45. And I got depressed. Again, one of the things I tell everyone is if you're on this journey to financial freedom and you're getting closer, right? You could see it in the future. Please don't be like me. Don't quit. Don't just jump off at a moment's notice. Doing that without a parachute could be painful. It was for me. It was the first time I got depressed because I didn't feel like I had a mission. I didn't feel like I was doing anything. I felt like a waste. I don't know if I would say I had suicidal thoughts, but it was definitely dark. My internal monologue, my internal voice was not good. So hence we generated what now is called One Rental at a Time. And it started with that book, right? I wrote One Rental at a Time and ultimately wrote a second, which I think is even more valuable, 15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires. So again, if you're on this journey and you're getting to the end, please find your next thing, right? What's going to be the thing I go after? Because again, having that mission, even if it's just a couple hours a day, would be enough to keep you going. So let's keep going. So again, one of the things that you can get these books, One Rental at a Time, is an Amazon bestseller. Man, was written 7 years ago, I think. And then 15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires. That's, you get on Amazon. Both of these are now on Audible. Shout out Dion McNeely for being the narrator. Both books are narrated by Dion. We owe him a debt of gratitude. Got rid of that funky computer voice on Audible. So again, Dion, we owe you immensely for that. I do think 15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires is extremely valuable because it's the book I needed when I was in the first 5 years of suck. Again, I was reading Gary Keller's blue and white book, The Back Pages, about investors who had done it. And this book is a deeper dive. It's not 2 pages. It's 15 unique stories on how different investors did this thing called real estate investing. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. So again, here's the premise. And what you're going to see throughout this video is there's a picture and then there's a quote. And the reason I did that is people learn differently. Some people are visual. Some people learn with the words. So here's the crux. This is what we're trying to communicate, right? Your parents, my parents, shoot, my generation. We were told to go to school, get a good job, climb the corporate ladder, retire at 65. That's a 40-year journey. And I believe by watching this presentation and taking it to heart and executing, you could do it in 10 years. So that was the conversation Scott Trench and I had. And that's the mission that I tried to do here. So the first thing I think we have to do is we have to acknowledge what our parents did. And, why do it differently if it's working? And here's just a bunch of facts that say the old way is not okay. First and foremost, the median retirement savings today for 65-year-olds is 164 grand. Think about trying to live on 164 grand for the rest of your life. It's not a good option. We once again see that owning versus not owning is meaningful, right? Renters at the age of 65 have a median net worth of 10 grand. Homeowners, roughly 400 grand. Social Security makes up 50% of their income. Social Security. It's that's not a good look. 97% of 64 or 65-year-olds have debt. It's crazy. 15% of them still have student debt. Can you imagine? 41% still have a mortgage. The median debt's 34 grand. 11.2 million 65-year-olds are looking for work. 1 in 4 retirement age individuals have zero saved. And then finally, 17 million 65-year-old plus are living below the poverty level. So again, if you've been sold a bill of goods, like I did, like many of us did, go to school, get a good job, climb the corporate ladder, retire at 65. I think we could all look at this and hundreds of other metrics like it and say, that's not for us. Again, if you want to go down this path and you're happy with the 40-40 life, by all means, go. I want to talk to the people that look at that and at least say, I could do better. I could do better. That's what this presentation is about. So I think we can all agree that the old way of doing it, this is what, why we have colleges and all of this stuff is, to basically create employees that show up and do what they're told. This is what the school system was done for decades. So again, folks, we're going to talk about how you could, get off the 40-year train and maybe do it in 10 or 8 or 12. So let's get into that. So again, remember pictures and words. That's what we're doing. So again, the rat race is real. And again, 4-year degree, econ degree, MBA, accountant, turned 7 grand into nearly 200 grand. I freely admit, as embarrassing as it is, that I did not know the rat race was real until I was over 30. And, I love this image for one reason. There is one subtle feature of this picture that is an anchor for the rest of this presentation. In order to get wealthy, you must understand this one feature, and that is the wheel, the green wheel. Folks, your first action item. I'm giving you homework. I'm giving you action items. Because you must, if you want to get wealthy, you must sit down and figure out what your life costs. What does your life cost? And now I would do this on a monthly basis. What is your life cost? Rent, mortgage, cars, food, entertainment, kids, whatever you do. What is your life cost? Because until you know what your life costs, the green wheel, you can't go anywhere. And the other thing about this green wheel is it's ever changing. For most of us, the wheel only gets bigger. And I often tell a story about Silicon Valley folks because that's where I live and that's where I worked for 30 years, 25 years. I know a lot of people who make 7 figures a year. And I also know a lot of people who make 7 figures that can't write a $10,000 check. Why? Because they let the green wheel get really big. And here's the other thing about it. If you ever seen a hamster on one of these wheels or a rat or whatever it is, if they're running really, really fast on a big wheel, they got it really going, and then suddenly a stick or something comes in and it stops it all of a sudden, it could be catastrophic. Think about riding a bike and somebody sticking a stick through your front wheel. That's going to end badly. So the first thing we must figure out, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, is you got to figure out what your life costs. That is step one. Until you know what your life costs, you can't get past go. You can't start the game. So we'll talk about that some more. But again, the green wheel is vital to understand. The most three harmful addictions are heroin, carbohydrates, and a weekly paycheck. Ouch. Let that sink in. This is a quote from Nassim Taleb. Again, folks, the weekly paycheck. And again, I am an employee. You all have heard me say that a lot. And again, where this comes in is you're comfortable keeping up with the Joneses. I deserve it. No, you don't. Right? This is really getting wealthy starts with really understanding that you've got to tuck a little bit away. You got to live below your means. You got to create disposable income. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But without it, you can't get anywhere, right? There's no gas in the tank. So again, we just need to realize and acknowledge and understand that the weekly paycheck for many of us is that drug, that thing that we're addicted to. Now, again, don't hear that and say, oh my God, Michael's telling me to be an entrepreneur. By no means. I think 90% of us were not wired to be entrepreneurs. I'm certainly not an entrepreneur, but I got to understand that I need to take this paycheck, this job, and take it from a prison where I'm trapped to the key to my financial future. Again, the lie that we've all been told, the lie that our parents gave us that that I picked up at least, working 40 hours working 40 hours a week for 40 years to live on 40% is a terrible idea. And this is what the weekly paycheck does. We get addicted to it. So here's action item number 2, right? So what is your life cost? Here's action item number 2. Again, please do this. Most of you, if I asked you how much you make, you could tell me your salary. If I asked you how much you took home, which is called net, right? Gross versus net, most of you could say, Michael, my weekly paycheck or monthly paycheck or whatever it is Y. I think both those numbers don't matter. If you want to get wealthy, your income doesn't matter. Your net doesn't matter. What matters? How much money you have left over at the end of the month. This is called disposable or sometimes called discretionary income. But if you really want to get scary with it, I want you to do some math. So I'm going to try to give you an example, and I want you to do your thing at home. So let's say I asked you how much you make and you said 50 grand. Okay, great. I make 50 grand. But how much do you net? And again, I'm going to make these numbers really simple. I'm going to say you net 40 grand, right? Or let's say 48 grand. That way the math is even easier. So again, you gross 50, you make, and you net 48. So what does that mean per month? Well, if you divide 48 by 12, you get 4, right? So hopefully you're still with me, right? You take home 4 grand a month. But your life costs something. Remember that green wheel from earlier. So what does your life cost? Now add them up. Rent, cars, mortgage, food, entertainment, whatever. And let's say for this example, it costs $3,800. So again, you take home 4 grand, your life costs 3,800. So in my world, the only number that matters is 200. Hopefully you're keeping up. Why is that 200 important? Well, that is the only money that you have full discretion to do whatever you want with. You take home 4, your life costs 38. You only have $200. Now, if you really want to scare yourself, take that $200 and divide by 160, which I'm going to do on my phone right now because it's a dollar something, but let's see, let's get an actual number. So $200 divided by 160 hours, that's 40 hours times 4 weeks. That's how I got 160. So in reality, folks, you make $1.25 an hour. That's how I want you to think. I want you to think I only make $1.25 an hour today. So what do you do with that? Well, what I would do with it, and this is part of the Get Your Money Right course that I'll give you here for free, I want you to take that $1.25 and use it to divide by something that is not is a want, not a need. Let's say your kid comes up to you and says, "I want a new video game or a new phone or a new whatever," and you want to give it to them. And let's just say that thing costs $800. So you're going to take $800 and divide by $1.25. So guess what, folks? You have to work 640 hours. Let's divide that by 40. You have to work 16 weeks. 16 weeks, 3 months to afford that widget or phone or game or whatever. Again, you don't take home like a lot of people go, "Oh, I can afford it. I take home $4,000." No, you don't. No, you don't. Your life costs $3,800 in this example. You have $200 that you can play with. So that thing that your kid wants, 16 weeks. Now, I'm not telling you not to buy it. If that thing is going to set your kid up, or you think working 16 weeks to buy it is an okay idea, then go nuts. I'm here to tell you that that's probably not a good idea. And you'll see throughout this, one of the things you need to do is figure out needs versus want during this season of building wealth. So again, what you're going to see is this 40-40-40 life really starts with getting really granular on something I call disposable or discretionary income. Most people fail to realize that in life, it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. The money you keep, what I'm calling for this conversation discretionary or disposable income, is the only number that matters. Discretionary and disposable income, folks, becomes seeds that you plant, you nurture, you water, and you see grow. I believe getting wealthy is math and time. It's math and time. So, step one of getting wealthy. And this is without question step one. Now, if you're in my community, my world, I'm going to hope you believe this already. If you're new to watching my content, realize that I believe this is very true. You need to believe that getting wealthy is possible. If you don't believe, if you think the system is rigged, if you think you were this or that, you've already lost. You've already lost. Step one of getting wealthy is you have to believe it's possible. One of the reasons One Rental at a Time is here, one of the reasons I wrote that second book, 15 Conversations with the Real Estate Millionaires, the reason I have 15 millionaires on my channel every week for you to listen to, is everybody has a different story. Everybody got on their journey in different ways. Everybody's had different mistakes and different wins. If one of the things I hope you think when you watch my channel is I honestly hope you think this. I hope you think, if he could do it, I could do it. If she could do it, I could do it. Right? One of the things that you'll realize about millionaires, multimillionaires, and decamillionaires is they're not smarter than you. They just focused and executed longer. That's all it is, right? It's math and time. How much you earn has almost no bearing on whether or not you add or will build wealth. Regardless of the size of your paycheck, you probably already make enough money to become rich. No truer words have been said, right? I have known people that never made more than 50 grand a year that became rich. I've known millionaires that are broke. I don't know if you guys have ever played the game Cash Flow by Robert Kiyosaki. I got one of the early versions when it was like $200 for a Christmas present. I love that game. And what I love about that game is actually step one, right? If you haven't played the game, one of the first things you do is you pick a career, right? You blindly pick a career. And I must have played this game a couple hundred times over the last 2 or 3 decades. And I now know with certainty that if you get the doctor or the lawyer card and I become a policeman or a teacher, I will beat you 99 times out of 100. What do I mean by that? If you have a high income job and your lifestyle is 20 grand a month, it takes a long time to replace 20 grand. Where if your lifestyle is 2 grand a month, you can do that very quickly. It's back to the green wheel. Remember the green wheel from like slide number 4? If your green wheel is 2 grand and my green wheel is 20 grand, you should get out of the rat race faster than me. Now there could be some unique things that happen in the right order that gives me a head start, but trust me, when your lifestyle costs 20 grand a month, you're keeping up with the Joneses, and that's hard to do. So again, it's not, don't think because you only make 48 grand you can't retire. I would tell you, you probably can retire faster than somebody making 480 grand. It's math and time. So here we go. We're going to get into the steps of getting rich. So we've been doing the setup. We've been trying to give you homework, and now we are going to get into the steps. And I do think there are only 3 steps to getting wealthy. Again, you must gain control over your money, or the lack of it will forever control you. Folks, again, remember your homework assignment. What is your life cost? How much money do you make an hour? And again, remember, what is your discretionary or disposable income by hour? You don't make 50 bucks an hour. You make $1.25, if I remember the numbers from earlier today. You must figure that out for yourself. This will take time. This will take you 4 or 5 hours, but you have to do it. If you want to get wealthy, you need to know where you're starting. You must know where you are starting. Okay, step 1. You have to grow discretionary income. In our earlier example, remember, you made 50 grand a year. Then you took home 48 grand a year or 4,000 a month. You took, your life cost 3,800. So in that earlier example, just to keep us all on the same page, you are only making $200 in discretionary income a month. So step 1, you have to grow that. The good news is there's only 3 ways. You can grow revenue, income, right? Change jobs, ask for a raise, get a side hustle. You can cut expenses, or you can do both. And we're going to get into that in a minute. So again, only 3 things you could do. Slash expenses. Now, again, I'm always honest with all of you. This is what Olivia and I did. We sat down, did a needs versus wants analysis, and we figured out that we frankly had a lot of wants, and we whacked expenses. The thing about expenses is it's fast. It falls immediately to the bottom line. Like in our example, right, where your life costs 3,800. Let's say for just examples, and I'm keeping track of the math so I can make sure the numbers tie out. Let's just say for a minute you cancel 2 online, I don't know, you cancel Netflix and Hulu, and I have actually no idea what those cost. But let's say for an example that's 200 bucks a month. So your life went from costing 3,800 to now 3,600. You have doubled your discretionary income, just like that. You went from only having 200 or $1.25 to now 400, which, if math is correct, will be now $2.50. Again, slashing expenses are fast, but it's also very limited, right? There's only a fixed number of things that you can cut. But again, you can cut them and cut them quickly. Number 2, you can grow revenue, income, ask for a raise, change jobs, get a side hustle, whatever, right? Find your thing. Or again, you can do both. The thing about growing income is that's theoretically unlimited, right? In our earlier example, you took home 4 grand a month. You could, in theory, double that to 8, right? Change jobs, get a second job, side hustle, whatever it is. Plenty of ways that you can grow income or revenue. Again, remember this now $400. We canceled Netflix and Hulu. We went from 38 to 3,600, now from 200 to 400. That $400 is a seed or seeds that we could plant and grow and watch compound. Right? It's the momentum. Benjamin Franklin said, beware of the little expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship. Step 2 of getting wealthy is you've got to become elite at something. And again, I think there's lots of ways that you can become wealthy. We all have a friend in our network who's chosen to become elite in vintage hockey and football cards. And I use this as an example just to say, I don't care what you choose to get rich in, just become elite, right? This individual has built up a multi-7-figure portfolio of vintage hockey and football. And by vintage, I'm talking 1950s and 1960s. This individual has spent the years and decades learning, the most valuable cards, the different gradings, the this, the that's, the others, so he can find value and see underpriced assets and buy them and trade them and sell them. I chose my buy box. For me, it was real estate. 93703, 3 or 4 bedrooms, 2-car garage, 2 baths, single story, 15 to 2,000 or 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. You have to become elite. You have to become focused. And if you do this day in, day out, in my world, in about 4 or 5 months, I knew that buy box better than anybody else. So I could find and see value before anybody else. I knew what was a great deal in seconds where others took days. This is becoming elite today, frankly, is pretty easy. Most people are distracted, right? Again, I think you can get wealthy in anything that you choose. I chose real estate. You could choose vintage cars. You could choose wine, classic cars, whatever it is. But you need to get focused and have daily discipline. You need to really become elite. And again, I don't know who said it. I think it might have been Jessley Itzler, right? It takes 2,000 hours. Again, that's not a lot of time, right? If it's something you're truly passionate about, you can dive in and figure it out. So again, step 2 of this is getting wealthy, is becoming elite at your chosen thing. So what do I mean? So in the beginning, folks, I don't care what Warren Buffett says. This is not the time to diversify. You can't be distracted. In my world of real estate, you can't, learn Cleveland, Ohio, Miami, Florida, Austin, Texas, and Fresno, California. You can't. Not in the beginning. Maybe never, but you certainly can't at the beginning. If you want to get rich in real estate, stocks, crypto, classic cars, trading cards, beanie babies, wine, art, I don't care. Pick your thing. It means that you can create or see value that others miss. For me, it's now called a buy box. And basically what most people get wrong about a buy box, people hear buy box, they see my focus and my discipline, and they think it's about what I see. It's actually about what I don't see. I mean, think about my buy box in 2001, Fresno, California, a city I never lived in. I didn't know anyone. I never spent the night in. To have such a focused buy box, I could find value. But here's the deal. I ignored 99.9% of the market. If it wasn't that really finite criteria, it might as well not exist. I looked at that one set of criteria for 3 years. That's the focus and discipline I'm talking about. It's ignoring other stuff. This is where a lot of new investors get it wrong. They come to me and go, Michael, I read your book. I get it. I want to buy box. I got it. But, I'm smarter than the average bear. And, I can look at 2 or 3. No, you can't. No, you can't. Not in the beginning. You're going to kill the momentum. You're going to kill the learning. You're going to get confused. You're not committed. So be focused. And again, this is how you compound that discretionary income. Remember that money we worked for earlier, that sacrifice we're making, canceling Hulu and Netflix to double it from 200 to 400. That is the seeds that you are now investing in compounding. That's how this works. Warren Buffett's quote: diversification is protection against ignorance. It makes little sense for those who know what they are doing. Diversification is protection against ignorance. It makes little sense for those who know what they are doing. And for the record, if you ever think you're smarter than Warren Buffett, let me just tell you, as a guy who once said that, you're not smarter than Warren Buffett. Just take that off the table. So here is step 3. This is the one I get the most pushback on. This is the one that loses people, but it's also one that means everything. It's a season. It takes 10 years. It takes a decade. Dion often says, you're going to be alive in 10 years, invest like it. You've heard people talk about choose your hard, right? Being fat's hard, being healthy's hard. Choose your hard. We already saw the stats, folks, on the second slide, about if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to end up with what, 164 grand? You're going to be looking for a job. Social Security is going to make up 50% of your income. Ouch. This is the path that most of us are on. We're on this path. We're comfortable, right? The weekly paycheck is the third addiction. Grow discretionary income, become elite, do it for a decade. That's math and time. Math and time. Again, do it for a decade. This is not a get rich quick, but it is get rich for sure. Never forget, the first 5 years suck. The first 5 years suck of this journey. You're making sacrifices. Your friends are making fun of you. Your family's making fun of you. Again, I say this as a gentleman who experienced it. I worked in tech. I was a sales guy. And let's just say sales guys like to spend money. And, comparing cars and second cars and suits and shoes and belts and all this stupid things. They make fun of you when you don't play along. You're the oddball. You're the guy they feel sorry for because they don't see what you're building. It's also where you make mistakes, right? You thought you knew this, but you did that, and ouch, I learned that. Right? I am not here to tell you this is going to be all sunshine, unicorns, and rainbows. I'm telling you it's worth it. Don't get me wrong, it's worth it. But you should know that the first 5 years will suck. It takes time to learn and tweak. I am not the same investor I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. You're going to constantly evolve and get better. The key to this 10-year journey is momentum. In our example that we've been talking about today, you now have $400 of discretionary income. $400 in the grand scheme of things, not going to change people's lives. But that is $4,800 a year that, when invested, because now you're an elite investor at something that you can compound. And guess what? Compounding is important. If you ever want to understand how compounding works, I suggest you have homework number 3. Take a penny and double it every day for 30 days. So 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512. You get the drill. A penny doubled a day for 30 days really is nothing for the first 3 weeks. First 21 days, it's uninteresting. Then it starts to get interesting. And then at day 28, 29, and 30, it gets really interesting. That's how this works. Everybody thinks that, becoming elite and doing it for a decade, it's linear, right? It's just a straight line. It's not. It's a parabolic curve or whatever you call that thing, right? It's exponential, right? You're not seeing the momentum in the first 5 years, and then there's a little drip, and then all of a sudden it's a raging river. With real estate, you have cash flow, equity pay down, appreciation. They all start to compound nicely or noticeably after 5 years. That little drip becomes a stream, and that stream becomes a raging river. And then don't be like everyone else and give up. I have met plenty of people that read One Rental at a Time, got inspired, got on the journey, and then gave up at year 6 or 7 or 8. You're so close. I've told this story many times, but since we're sharing this with the world, I'll tell it again. I went to a housewarming party of somebody that reported to me. I think this was at year 8, might have been year 9. Again, this is an employee that reported to me. So theoretically, I make more money. Theoretically, I should be living a better lifestyle. That's just what the situation is. And let's be clear, this guy had a nicer house in a nicer part of town, a bigger house, a single family home. I'm in a condo, still am talking to you from the condo right now. And by all means, this guy was winning. He had the right house in the right school district, had a backyard, and he was winning. Or at least that's what my brain told me. What do I mean? So I drove home. It wasn't very far, 4 or 5 miles. And out of nowhere, I still don't know how this happened. I start crying. I start crying so much that I have to pull over and let Olivia drive us home. And I have no, believe me, folks, I thought I was having a panic attack. I had no idea where these tears came from. It was freaky. But what I realized when we got home, talking to Olivia, she's always smarter than me. I did not know. I didn't know at year 8, at year 9, if what I had asked my family to do was worth it. Think about that. 9 years in, multi-millionaire, and I didn't know if it was worth it. For a moment, I had a fleeting moment of panic that the 9 years I asked my daughter and my wife and myself to sacrifice wasn't worth it. And we were 1 or 2 short years from being done. So again, I know it's a decade. In the grand scheme of things, as somebody who's now 53, a decade goes by quickly. So don't give up. Don't give up. Again, you need to be investing in yourself, going to events, seeking out, again, real, whatever the game is, there are cheat codes, there are things that you could learn. Communication, critical thinking, video, whatever that is. If you happen to like what we do here at One Rental at a Time, I do have a teachable. These are kind of paint by numbers. There is a free course that you see there, protecting and growing, strengthening the middle class. Shout out to my mom for the title. My mom really thinks that that's what we're doing here. So shout out Dorothy. 2-hour buy box. Again, this is something I'm very known for. I think a lot of people need to figure out what their buy box is, how to do it. Get your money right. 10-week boot camp that I charged $1,000 for. It's $100. And then of course, the big one, the big paint by numbers, how to start one rental at a time. You can go get these on Teachable. But again, if these are really for the people that are kind of paint by numbers, that's what these are. But again, I've put them out there. They are there for your consuming if you want them. But let's review some cheat codes that the wealthy have. You do not need to quit your job and go all in. One of the things that I personally revolt against is the entrepreneur mindset of burn the boats, go all in. I think that is a recipe for disaster for most people. I think most of us, myself included, are wired to be employees. Right? Again, you don't have to become an entrepreneur. I think being an entrepreneur has higher upside. I do think that. If you want to become a billionaire, entrepreneurship's the way to go. You just want to become a millionaire and have a great life? Plenty of employees do that. And this whole show is how to do it in 10 years. Don't forget that the first 5 years suck. You will likely hear me say that several more times in this conversation. I don't want you to forget it. I don't want you to expect anything different. Just know going in, I'm in the 5 years of suck. Again, the financial exercise that really helped Olivia and I in the early years were needs versus wants. We'll talk about that in a minute. Lifestyle creep is real. It is very dangerous, folks. That is the green wheel from slide number 3 or 4. Lifestyle creep is real. real. I remember getting my first big boy job after graduating college. And what did this brainiac do? I think I made 40 grand a year and I bought a $50,000 car. That is stupid. Dumb. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. You've got to audit your network. You've got to be around the right people. You also, in today's world, must be very careful on what you consume. One of the things I learned at Bigger Pockets was that most people came up to me after, like more than half, and were like, Michael, how do I find new friends? How do I find my circle? Right? My network is not great. And I've given versions of this talk for years now, and that's now becoming a thing. So I guess as adults, we're not as comfortable making new friends. I get it. So you have to seek them out. One of the things that I'm very proud of is, and I hope to be known for most in life, is our school community of almost 500 people going the same direction, getting wealthy, making mistakes, having wins, networking, creating friendships. So if you need any help in this conversation is any help to you, just join school. You've got to watch your daily and weekly habits. If I watch your habits, I can tell where you're going. It's simple tools to build an empire. It doesn't have to be complicated. And again, I think these are all the ultimate cheat codes to starting building wealth today. This is a big thing for me. Again, I hear a lot of people. I interact with a bunch of entrepreneurs now. Ryan Pineda's and others. Graham Stephan of the world, and a lot of them believe that entrepreneur. And again, they're in my world, they're unicorns. They've made it. They've got that escape velocity. Ryan Pineda has this Mastermind 19 that he created out of nowhere that's already a 7-figure business. I think that's amazing. I think the fact that you can have an idea and 3 or 4 months later have it be $1 million business is amazing. It's a sign of what's possible today. But let's be real. I don't have that. I'm not that unique unicorn that can have an idea and spin up a 7-figure business. Some people are. I want you to know that most of us need to change how we think about our job. When I ask the average people, what do they think about their job? It's usually, I hate it. It's this, it's that. It's all negative. I want you to flip the script. I want you to think that your job is the key to your future, not a prison. Again, if you believe what we're talking about here, you're going to have a 10-year decade. You're going to have a season. So every day you go to work, you're one day closer. Just change how you think about your job. And oh, by the way, life gets better. If you're not miserable 5 days a week from 8 to 5 or 9 to 6 or whenever you work, life's just better when you realize that your job is the key to your future. So again, change the mindset. This is the quote that I like of my own. Your job is not a prison, but in fact can be the key to unlocking your financial future. It really is. I think there are so many people that are anti-job. I think people think it's cool to bag on a job. If you just change your mindset and realize you're using it as a tool, it will make life a lot better. Again, I've told you you're going to get this a lot from me because I don't ever want you to forget the first 5 years suck. We've all seen the meme of people digging for diamonds and they stop, a couple of, strikes early. It's there for you folks. It's going to be dirty. It's going to be hard. It's going to be smelly. You're going to get stressed out. You may even cry. But again, it's worth it. Again, getting wealthy is math and time. And, you just got to get over the hurdle of those first 5 years. This is a great quote from Jack Ma that I really like. Today is hard. Tomorrow will be worse. But the day after tomorrow will be sunshine. Most people give up tomorrow evening. Don't give up tomorrow evening. If you are going to get on this wealth journey, get on this wealth journey. And know the first 5 years suck. And just keep going anyway. Again, folks, one of the things we all need to do is audit our network. A lot of people, when I did this when I did this presentation in a live event, I always ask, how many of you are here with your best friend? How many are you here with your best friend? And the reason I ask that question is I expect most people not to raise their hand. And I got to tell you, if you're getting on a wealth journey, it's far better to have your best friend also on a wealth journey because you need that support. You don't need somebody that's going to go, it's going to drop poison in your life. And I'm not talking about poison on purpose, but just negativity and smirks and, you know, just those little comments or zings that you get sometimes when people don't get it. You got to remember, folks, if you're going to get on a wealth journey, most people are not on it. Most people are comfortable. Never forget one of our early slides that talked about that weekly paycheck being the third most addictive thing. Most people don't realize that they're working on a 40-40 life, right? Working 40 hours for 40 years to live on 40%. You're different. You are different. If you are on this wealth journey, you're different. And I strongly suggest you get around other people who are also on this wealth journey. If you want to get six pack, get around 5 friends who have a six pack. You want to be a millionaire, get around 5 millionaires. It's just how it works. You're not going to be fit if you're around 5 fat friends. It's just not how it works. So please audit your network. If you look at the people in your circle and you don't get inspired, then you don't have a circle. You have a cage. Ouch. Rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle. That's a good one. Folks, if you're not inspired by the people that are around you, you have a cage. You're limited. This quote should hit hard. How many of you are inspired by your 5 closest friends? I'm going to guess not everyone. I'm going to guess most. You folks, you're an adult. You are an adult. You can make decisions. And frankly, you need to own your poor decisions. Please audit your network. Get a better circle. Don't have a cage. Again, where I think the best thing we've done is, and again, we have the school community, but we are hosting our Vegas event, year number 3. We do events very differently. Again, you're going to get to make new friends. 15 millionaires are speaking over 2 days, 6 hours of networking. I am buying you 2 lunches and a dinner. You don't need to bring any food. Food will be provided. It's driven by the audience. All the speakers will go for 30 minutes and then 15 minutes of Q&A. And we have 2 keynotes. We got Jason Hartman on Saturday and Pace Morby on Sunday. And having just done 3 events, I can promise you there will be no selling from stage. My events are more of a celebration and an acknowledgement of the amazing community and really that motivation and kind of almost a family reunion. Again, you want to be at this event. It's very limited. I think we've sold 150 tickets already, so we're almost halfway to being sold out. So again, go get your tickets. It's one of the best things we do each and every year. So again, what was one of those things that Olivia and I did? And this, I think, is homework assignment number 3, is I want you to take out your credit card, your debit card, however you spend money. And I want you to audit what you spent the last month. And if you really want to get jiggy with this, do the last 3 months, 90 days. If you are in a relationship, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, do this together. And if you are in a relationship, I would actually do it separately first, right? You do you, she does, I'm a guy, right? So I do me and Olivia does her, vice versa if you're a woman. And the reason I want you to do this is because when Olivia and I did this, some of the things that I thought were a want, Olivia thought were a need, and vice versa. And the reason that's important is you just don't know, right? Something I thought was a want, she said's a need, so we have to have those discussions. But again, remember, this is about controlling and increasing discretionary income. From an earlier example, just to keep tying this all together, we canceled Netflix and Hulu. We doubled our discretionary income from 2 to 400. In this example, that would have been a want. Olivia and I both agreed that Netflix and Hulu is a want. Again, you don't have to give up wants forever. You just have to give up wants for a season. I promise you, there are some things in your monthly expenses that are wants that you can cancel immediately. This is back to the discretionary income. It is quicker and immediate to whack expenses as you look to grow revenue. So please understand and audit where your money is going. Great achievement is usually born of great sacrifice and is never the result of selfishness. This, according to Napoleon Hill. Again, one of the keys to this is the old saying, live below your means. And again, you don't have to do that forever. This is about a season. I talked earlier about getting my first big boy job and buying a 50K car. That is stupid. I just grew the green wheel. Remember the green wheel from slide number 3? But hey, I can afford it. I deserve it. That is one of the most dangerous things you could ever say. I deserve it. Maybe, but are you really trying to get wealthy? Can you have delayed gratification? I could tell you, as somebody who had his dream car, right? I had this dream car that I saw when I was 21 that I finally bought when I was 42, maybe 43. Worth it. Now, in fairness, I could have bought it when I was 35 or 32, but I would have taken on debt and increased the green wheel. It wasn't until I could get that car and pay it cash 5 times over that we did it. You just have to, it's a season, folks. It's a 10-year season. So again, remember, you will make some sacrifices in the beginning. The first 5 years are going to suck, but it's worth it. It is not your salary that makes you rich. It's your spending habits. This is so true of most consumers. Again, you get a raise, you spend it. You get a stimmy check, you spend it. You get this, you spend it. We got to realize if we're on this wealth journey, this 3-step process, we're going to take that extra money, that bonus, that this, that, and we're just going to sock it away. We're going to become an elite investor at something, and we're going to do it for a decade. This is a big one for me. I could have done a couple versions, but I like this one. Show me your habits, and I will show you your future. There's another version of this that says, show me your friends, and I will show you your future. Both are true. Again, one of the things I often talk about here is, I'm around a lot of entrepreneurs in Vegas now, and a lot of them keep telling me they're doing it for their family, right? I'm doing it for my family. And then I ask them to show me their calendar. And lo and behold, their family's nowhere on it. And again, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but please don't tell me you're doing it for your family and your family's not there, right? Don't tell me you want to get 6-pack abs and you're eating McDonald's for breakfast. Be very clear on what you want. And, at the end of the day, if I look at your habits, I know where you're going, right? Words don't matter. Habits matter. Discipline matters. Focus matters. Either you design your future or you accept the one life throws at you. Stop running on autopilot. Start creating with intention. Folks, I've said it before and likely to say it again. If you are happy with the 40-40 life, 40 hours for 40 years, if you are truly happy, I got nothing for you and I want to wish you all the best. I hope it works out. I really do. But if you really want to get on building wealth, I'm giving you the pieces. I'm telling you it's going to take a decade. I'm telling you the 5 years are going to suck. I'm telling you to get new friends. These are all choices that you have. One of the things that I truly believe, if you choose to get rich in real estate, is the investors that have the most tools win. Again, I am still investing in myself. I'm still going to events. I'm still learning. And, I just had, for example, the CEO of Rome on the channel, because I don't know about you, but I've heard about FHA and VA loans being assumable. I've also heard out in the world that that's hard to do, if not impossible. Lo and behold, Rome is a company that's focused on helping people do that and have a process to do that. And I know several people that have used it and got deals closed. So I'm looking at and researching if there's any deals that I should look at. And again, this is saying something after I've been doing this for 25 years or 26 years. I'm still learning. So realize you're never going to be done. Always seek to learn, seek to grow, seek something new, right? Get in new rooms, get around new people. This is a quote I got from Pace Morby. The real estate investor with the most tools, and again, Pace Morby, the sub two king, he admits the one with the most tools has the best chance to win the long-term game of building wealth. Never stop learning. Some of the tools that Olivia and I used over a 20-year career before I retired: live below our means, seeds, cash out refi, second mortgages, equity lines, 1031 exchange, Burr, shout out Brandon Turner for the name, hard money, private money, 401k loan, title loan on my car, a flip, a wholesale, a seller finance, DSCR loans, and it goes on and on and on from there. Again, never stop learning. One of the things I'd be remiss, again, Scott Trench, CEO of Bigger Pockets, former CEO of Bigger Pockets, wrote an amazing book called Set for Life, and house hacking was highlighted. Dion, house hacking. Matt, house hacking. PTO for Life, house hacking. Again, Anna Kelly, house hacking a fourplex. House hacking is a cheat code. Why is it a cheat code? For most of us, X taxes, so not taxes, shelter is our most expensive monthly expense. House hacking allows you to take that expense from, call it $2,000 a month, to potentially zero or even negative, meaning you get paid to live there. I understand that house hacking is not for everyone based on where you are in life. However, if I were to start this over, if I was to tell my daughter to do something over, this is what I would tell them. You should execute the 4-3-2-1 strategy. This was first brought to us by Lumberjack Landlord like 5 years ago. I just heard Grant Cardone say this 2 weeks ago. Grant Cardone is talking 4-3-2-1. If you don't know what that is, I'll give it to you. 4 is a fourplex. So the first thing you should do is save up a down payment, 3.5%, 5% down to buy a fourplex. Live in one unit. Then 2 years later, buy a triplex. Then 2 years later, buy a duplex. And then, and only then, buy the house. 4-3-2-1. If you do that, there's a very good chance at the end of that cycle, you're financially free. And if you keep that green wheel small, you're definitely financially free. So again, house hacking is a superpower, is a cheat code. Scott Trench, house hacking transform housing from a major expense into an income producing asset. Think about that earlier example. Remember, we had $4,000 a month coming in, life cost $3,800. Then we canceled Hulu and Netflix. It's now $3,600. If you were house hacking and your shelter was $1,000 and now you house hack and it's zero, you've just taken that $400 and now it's $1,400. That's how house hacking is a cheat code. And again, you do not have to house hack forever, but maybe a season, maybe 5 years, maybe a decade. Folks, check out PTO for Life. I think they're on house hack number 9. They're financially free. They were just in Business Insider. Again, it's uncomfortable. I mean, she tells a story about sharing a bathroom with 5 guys. I can't imagine how that was. But again, not forever, just a season. Again, folks, I do believe all of us watching this, again, this is my school community, but hopefully you're watching this on YouTube. I believe all of you can be everyday wealth builders. Again, I have this amazing school community. Thank you, each and every one of you, for being here today. School.com/ORAT stands for one rental at a time. Should be easy to find. It is what I hope to be known for most. Just to give you a little flavor of what's in there, these are all the accountability groups that are available. We have accountability groups 7 days a week, every day of the month. We've got 2 on Wednesday, 3 on Thursday, but every other day has at least 1. We've got some that start at 6 a.m. and some that start at 6 p.m. All times are Pacific in this example. Again, we have an amazing community of go-givers. Find the one that works for you. Find the topics. You've got Ladies of Orat, you got out-of-state investing, Gen Z, multifamily. They're all there for you. Find your topic, find your team, find your tribe, find your friends. We also have all these free education, right? This education, it's under Classroom. Thousands and thousands of dollars out there available for free. You got stuff from myself, Ty, Bill Allen, Jason Pritchard. You got accountability groups. You got the replay. You got the boot camp. The boot camp was $1,000. And you got the replay for free. So again, no upcharge. It's all there for you. And then finally, if you don't know it, there's a map. Where are all the wealth builders? And again, I just took this of the United States. We have wealth builders around the world. But again, you can find, you could drill in. Don't worry. There is privacy. The locations are 10 miles away from where you are. But again, it's just a general area. So again, lots of things out there for you in the school community. And this is my final slide. Again, I believe in you. Do the work. 67 pennies a day. Get new friends. Let's go. I think that's it for me. All right, Matt, how do we do? Mark, sorry, Mark, any questions or anything you want me to jump into?
No, not really. There's a lot of just more like comments about what their, the journey, how they like school. But Jim looks like he raised his hand.
Hello, Jim.
Hey, how's it going this morning?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. So the whole stock market thing where you lost all that money, do you
Oh,
think if that did not happen, you'd be where you're at right now?
mm-mm. I really don't. I mean, let's just, I mean, I've actually played this out in my head. Let's say I was at 200 grand and it was a normal correction and I went to like 175. I wouldn't be here today because I would have stayed engaged. I would have kept going. It was the ass whooping and the speed of it that I woke up and realized that I didn't know the game. So yeah, it's a great question. It's funny. I have the same question for Dave Ramsey. If I ever talk to him, I'm like, Dave, I know you foreclosed and this, that, the other, but what happens if they weren't short-term debt? Would you be here today? And I bet his answer is the same. Yeah, I wouldn't be here without that crash. The crash is something that was horrible in the moment, but I am glad it happened.
Those life events, I think, are what actually define us.
Amen. I wouldn't be here today. This community wouldn't exist without that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank
Great
you.
question. Of course. Anybody else have questions? I've got a couple. Oh, Omid, hi.
Hi, Michael. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. So, first of all, thank you very much for all the content you've been putting out. It's been an inspiration for me, for sure. I really resonated with your message.
Awesome.
So my question is, I just put an offer on a property, so I'm just stepping into this. So what is the biggest challenge for a brand new investor for in the first year of investing? You may have covered this before, but
No,
I'd
it's
love
fine.
to
It's
know
great.
from
No, that's why we're here. I think there's a couple things. Again, not knowing where you are in this, I'll try to tell you the full picture. One of the things I see with new investors is they get the first deal done and they're immediately rushing to deal number two.
you.
When in reality, they should focus on deal number one, right? Uh, Learning the skill of buying a property, actually buying the property is an event, but you're going to hopefully own it for decades. So don't rush to the second one. Let the first one season. Figure out if your numbers were right? You thought it would be, I don't know, a 10% yield. What happened? Was it 10? Was it 6? Was it negative, right? Figure out what you know so you can improve and learn for the second one. So that's the first thing. Number two, again, not knowing if you're going to self-manage or property management, you've got to work on the team. And again, you know, the only thing to do is do, right? So I fired my first 5 property managers and I thought I interviewed them well. I interviewed for a living as a sales leader. But again, people know what to say. So again, manage the manager if you're going to use a PM. If you're self-managing, always think of the tenant as the client, right? Because they really are. They're the client. So make sure you watch that. So those are my first initial thoughts.
Even if
Good.
there was a very good deal, you still would say that don't jump into the second one.
Again, these are my advice. I have personally seen too many people rush to the second deal without letting the first one marinate. And I'm not saying let it marinate forever, but
Yeah.
you've got to give it 90 days. I mean, I think I wrote this in my first book, One Rental at a Time. I knew a guy um, that just copied what I did. I gave him all the contacts. He went down one weekend and bought 2 or 3 houses. I'm like, what are you doing? Just because you have the money doesn't mean you should, right? Go get one and then see. So yeah, because again, if you don't really know what you're doing, A, you don't really know if it's a good deal because you don't have a proof of concept. And two, a second deal just adds to the stress.
Right.
So yeah, my advice is let the first one marinate, but don't stop looking. Just, let the first one marinate for a minute.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey, Jim.
I just want to expand on that because I'm right there. I'm doing 3 burrs and life happens. That's the biggest thing. You got other stuff outside of the real estate thing. You might have all this stuff planned out, but something's going to step in there and change that plan.
Yeah.
That's the number one issue.
Amen. Yeah. Life has a funny thing of playing with the board and messing it up. Yeah.
Yep.
Mark, any comments that maybe I should talk about or ask?
Yes, I see. Sid's asking, is there any budget apps that you recommend? I've been on a debt-free journey 5 years ago, used
Nice.
every dollar then. Yeah.
Nice. Honestly, I don't have one that I've used. I'm an Excel guy, which is, again, I started that decades ago before all the apps. I don't have an app that I use, so I can't say. Yeah.
Yeah, not, I mean, most of it is just kind of touching on what a lot of the big topics you touched on, like
Cool.
big stock losses. Christy
Mhm.
says big stock losses force her to look into other avenues.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you all being here. Hopefully this was interesting. I will post this on YouTube. So if you have friends or kids or
Oh,
whatnot.
oh,
Oh,
there's
go ahead.
one just popped
Nice.
up.
Nice.
iPhone 2, I'm not sure who that is, but it says we have 2 rentals. One is paid off. We still owe on the second. Cash flow is 2,400.
Nice.
If you have 500,000 in a 401k, would you buy a third and fourth rentals or what direction?
Yeah. So this is, so I think you're either in growth mode or chill mode, right? And I don't think you can be in both. You just have to know where you are. If 2,400 bucks is what you need and what you target, then focus on paying off the second and be good to go, right? Dion makes this work with 8 properties or whatever it is, 12, whatever. I know people that make it work with 4. So the first thing I would tell you is to have an honest conversation with yourself or your partner if you're in a relationship and figure out the number that you want. If 2,400 is the number, congrats, you're in chill mode. If the number is $4,000, well, guess what? You're in growth mode. So know thyself and know where they are and never confuse the two. I really don't believe you can be in both. That's what I would do. Jim? Oh, there you go. There
Your health journey. How
Yeah.
much changes in your diet? And can you elaborate on some of that?
Yeah. So, so I'm basically eating rather clean. And what does clean mean? So I have a sweet tooth, so I don't eat desserts anymore. Desserts are out. I eat a lot of basically I orient all my decisions around protein. I try to get about 200 grams of protein a day, and I try to stay below 1,900 calories. So I would say protein makes up 60% of my calories. So what does protein look like for me? I will have a ribeye steak almost every day. Probably 5 days a week, I'll have a ribeye steak. Other than that, I'll have chicken or something like that. So everything is oriented around protein. Protein's the center of the meal. Then I will have, rice or sweet potato with that, and then some vegetables. The trick for me is I got this thing called a Ninja Creamy. It basically allows me to take a protein drink and make it ice cream. It's freaking this magic thing. So I like vanilla. So you tweak this to your liking. So I take a full, I think it's called a quart of Greek yogurt. In my case, vanilla. I then take 2 muscle milks, again vanilla, and then I add in vanilla protein powder. So it's ice cream to me. It's 50 to 60 grams of protein, and it's like 410 calories. I have that every night, and it's such a treat. It tastes so amazing. So what you do is you make it in a blender, you pour it into this cup, you freeze it, then you put it in this thing called a Ninja Creamy. It makes a lot of noise for 4 or 5 minutes, and then it comes out. It's just like fluffy ice cream. That is a super hack because again, my brain my brain sees that and thinks it's ice cream, but it's just a frozen protein shake. So that's how I get around the no sweet thing. Is I have 50 grams of protein to finish my day. Freaking amazing.
Yeah, I'm
Shout
fine
out
when I'm
Chris Williams.
traveling because I keep my food to a minimum. When I'm at home, that kitchen's too damn close.
You got to get rid of the junk. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not in my house. If it's not in my house, I can't eat it.
Yeah, well, that's part of my problem is we have multiple people in the house, so that's still there, and but that's on me. That's definitely all on me.
Yeah. And the other thing I would tell you, if you want to get healthy, is it's fun. It's funny. I'm now seeing getting healthy is same as getting wealthy. It's just faster. I would figure out your average steps of the day and simply add 2,000. Right. Look over the last month. If you've averaged 5,000 steps, do 7. Right. Because a lot of people you'll see online talk about doing 10,000 steps. For a lot of people, that's impossible. Right. And then they just give up. All I want you to do is add 2,000 to whatever you're already doing and wait. Like I lost 20 pounds just by walking. Just by walking.
Yeah, when we
Crazy.
were in Italy, we were walking 10 to 15 miles a day, and I lost 10 pounds on that trip.
Yeah. And Italy food is, yeah, Italy doesn't poison their food like we do here.
Yeah,
But yeah,
correct.
it's pretty wild, pretty crazy. All right. Got time for one more question and then I got to get shut down so I can go talk to Dan Bird.
Hmm. I see Jen was the first one. So she says, first 5 years suck. What year did you stop feeling the suck?
That's a good question. Um, I guess it hit me at year 8. And some of that's because of how Olivia and I divided up the workload. So if you guys don't know the story, Olivia kind of ran the business. She did the expenses, the day to day while I was out selling software around the world. My job was to secure capital and find deals. So I wasn't really in the day to day. But I remember I was in Europe. I remember this like yesterday. I was in Europe and you check in with your wife and kid like you do. And I said, how much money do we need to transfer? Because this is during the crash for us. And we were buying junk, I don't know, seemingly monthly. And I was so used to saying, oh, we got to move 4 grand or 6 grand or whatever it was to cover the cash flow of doing remodels for the Burrs. And she said nothing. And I'm like, nothing? I'm like, didn't we just buy blah, blah, blah street? Oh, yeah, we bought that. I'm like, isn't that like a 20K remodel? Like, where's the money coming from? She goes, oh, cash flow covers that. And I'm like, what? Cash flow covered 20 grand? She said, oh, yeah, covered, no problem. I'm like, wow. I mean, that was the first time I looked up. I remember I think I was in Germany. Might have been England, one of those countries. And I looked up going, oh my God, it's working. Now, again, that's just my situation. I probably should have been closer to it, but I was I was so focused on just doing a good job at my day job and then finding deals and securing capital. I guess I never looked at the numbers, but yeah, that was the first time I really realized like, oh my God, that's like real cash flow, 20 grand. So that was the first time. All right, guys, I want to thank you all for being here. It made this far more enjoyable for me. And hopefully this meant something. Hopefully you see a path to getting wealthy. This is my school community. So I'm going to guess all of you, or at least 99% of you kind of get this. This is what we talk about each and every day. I do hope more people see this and join the community. I want to be known. The thing I want to be known for the most in the next couple of years is our school community, right? All those accountability groups are run by amazing people that give up their time each week for all of us. And I will be forever grateful for each and every one of you being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Take care. Later.